All right. Hey there. Welcome to our live session today. I'm Jon Moffitt. I'm here with Cameron and Scott. We are here to talk about denied to approved, the founder's journey. And I'm super excited to have Cameron here with me today. Cameron, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, John. Thank you so much. Nothing like getting a tech conversation started with little tech challenges. It's always good stuff.
Yeah, it's been fun. We've been trying to go live here, and so we're going to record this and post this out to everybody today. But really wanted to take a moment and paint the picture for everybody because most businesses they're when they get denied, they have no idea why. They don't know what happened. They just get denied, then they go to another bank and they get denied, and so on and so forth. And what I want to tell everybody that's listening to this is that that does not mean your business is bad. And most of the time, um, you know, uh, there are three secrets that really hit home that can help you, get prepared. And so, by the end of this call today, you're going to have a better understanding of how to get approved. So, my goal is, or our goal is one, help you with the emotional journey of being an entrepreneur, and two, being prepared before you go out and look for capital, and having your business ready at all times. I have some really exciting news. Cameron and I have been working on a project he's been working on his for quite a while. I've been working on mine for about 15 years, and it's all coming to a head here. But at the end of this, we'll share some of the information that you might be interested in that's going to keep your business prepared all the time. So having Cameron here is real exciting. Cameron, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I wrote them down, so I'm gonna read them off because I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. You know, from your side, when you're seeing, when you're dealing with founders and you're dealing with coaches and things, what are some things that really stand out? Tell me, like, what brings EQI or EQ intelligence, AI to the forefront when you're dealing with founders and their journeys and the coaches that you're dealing with?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, pleasure to be here. John and I definitely have some exciting stuff in the works, and we'll be touching on that throughout our conversations. Um, you know, there's kind of two sides to this coin. For anybody out there who's thinking about stepping into the American dream from, let's call it, employment to entrepreneurship, um, it it comes with challenges. It comes with a slew of new ways of operating in the world and trying to acquiesce to all the challenges and obstacles that come our way as we're setting up our companies and we're opening our business accounts. And we have the momentum of the vision to carry us into the commitment. And then we have the realities of the environment that being an entrepreneur in today's age is all about. And it's about grit right now.
Yeah.
And then we have that kind of the other side of the coin here is it, coaches who have been in this marketplace. COVID was a massive explosion for coaches in the online marketplace. And in that time frame, a lot of the, new coaches found themselves scaling into, pretty substantial yearly revenues. And then, these few years post COVID, we've seen like I'm not going to call it glass ceiling, but we've seen a lot of coaches who went from high six figures to low six figures. We saw coaches going, that hit mid sevens, like high 7-figure product sales and deliveries to low 7 figures and even 6 figures. And what's happening is in this marketplace, like from a financing funding standpoint, is there's John, two things going on. There's the startup founders like you and I right now who are literally out here working, day and night to bring this product to market, to get investor attention. And a lot of entrepreneurs start this journey thinking that because they have an idea, they're going to get funded.
Right.
And today's marketplace requires that dedication to, investors want to see traction.
Mm-hmm.
Investors want to see momentum in your idea because with AI in the marketplace right now, there is a ton of information coming online, and right now, those of us who are bringing that product online and getting traction are going to find our investors.
Yeah, absolutely.
The that newpreneur who's hoping he can go to the bank and get a line of credit, um, you know, that's a personal guarantee. Those are personal notes on a high credit score if they can accomplish that, right? So there's kind of two things going on, when we talk about like denied to approved.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. So there are two different levels. One, line of credit really revolves around credit score and personal credit
Mhm.
score. And then they have these other lines of credit that if you are fortunate enough to get your product or your kind of business off the ground and you have a little bit of revenue going, they approve you off of what you bring in every month. And so if you have 4 or 5 months of bank statements, they'll give you some type of percentage of your cash flow in a form of line of credit. What I find a lot of times, those that use those lines of credit, they use them the wrong way. So, when you start to get those lines of credit in the beginning, the money has to use to grow the profit, not necessarily R&D, right? Not necessarily hiring. It has to be very specific to marketing and growing so you can continue to grow your line of credit base. And so a lot of entrepreneurs make a mistake and they'll go get that first line of credit and they use it on some R&D or on a product or something new, and then they're stuck because they're not growing
Yeah.
their revenue base, right? For those that, have their line of credit and they have to go around to angel investors or friends and family to raise money, that's a whole nother thing. And one of the things that I think is probably the most important thing with those type of entrepreneurs, where I think the product that we're going to introduce or that I'm going to talk about a little bit, which is our capital vault, is one of the big secrets is having all of your documentation in one spot. And some people call those different things. They have their Dropbox, they have their Google Drive, they have their capital deck, data room. A lot of investment VPs and all those, they use data rooms. And then and what's interesting to me is you'll always get an opinion as far as what you should have in that data room. But I can tell you from my experiences, there's about 7 things that you want to make sure that you are explaining in that data room, that's really important. And having it accessible and ready for people to get to it on a regular basis, on the drop of a hat, is one of the keys when you're starting early as an entrepreneur and raising money. If anybody's interested in understanding how to put that together, I want in the comments, go ahead and drop Capital Vault, and I will get you a list of what you should have in that data room or area. And love to get you into our founders community because there's a lot of great information. That's one of the pieces that's in there, but it'll really help you start to understand what's important. If you've got an idea and you're going to go out and raise capital, there are some definitely things that you want to flush out in that data room or vault. I really think that you hit the nail on the head, because once you kind of use up all your credit and use up all your lines of credit, now you're out raising money, right? And most of the people you're raising money, they give you money one of two ways. They either believe in you or they believe in the product, right? And when you're really early, it's because they believe in you. And some of those are the hardest conversations to have, because you're going to people really, really well. How's your experience been with that?
Yeah. Well, this has been, um, well, let me digress for a minute, because you touched on a couple topics.
Sure.
I'm gonna bring to the surface here. Like, as a founder, for those of you out there chasing this entrepreneurial vision, like, you're going to hear a lot of different things out there. And one of the most important is build it and ship it fast. Ship it messy. Ship it. Like, get your product out there. That isn't to say that along the way, as your vision begins to unfold and new ideas and new people come in and integrate better product, that you don't try to integrate that into your shippable product, but if somebody is not writing you a check to fund your dream, funding is going to be your biggest challenge.
Right.
And for months on my journey, I mean, I went out and got the lines of credit. I had a very high credit score. I went out, I got the lines of credit. I believed in my vision. I saw a need in the marketplace, and we can talk about that shortly. But, I went out, I got the big line of credit, zero interest for a year. I knew I was going to pay it back. I knew I was going to ship the product. And then things happened.
Yeah.
And delivery dates got missed month after month. And then I started going out to friends and family. And, that's hard money to bear on your shoulders when you're borrowing from people you love, that they believe in you, but you
Yeah.
also have, a new commitment to this money.
Yeah. And you just
And
said something I want to touch on real quick, if you don't mind me cutting you off. So, this is a really important point. I know your story, but I think we kind of skipped over it. So you're out raising money, and the reason you didn't hit your deliverables was a little bit because the partner you picked, right? A little bit because of who you
yes,
chose and what happened. So not that you got to get into it, but I'd love for the founders to understand the importance of picking the right partners in your journey as well, that you are going to build your dream with.
absolutely. And so, a vision unfolds. You see a need in the marketplace. Your entrepreneurial spirit comes alive, and oftentimes it comes with, like, it either comes with the deepest belief in your heart and soul that you will move forward and chase this thing no matter what, at all costs, nothing will stop you, or or it's handed to you. Like, there are some entrepreneurs out there who have an opportunity to start something that's handed to them. They get the funding and it works. And sometimes it does. But as we're walking this line of every vision requires a team. And there's this nomenclature in the entrepreneurial world right now of solopreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And solopreneurship is a very dangerous ideology to structure the vision of bringing something to life around, because you can't do it by yourself. You
Yeah.
cannot. You can want to all you want to, but you cannot. Anything that is of value in the marketplace is going to require a team, even with AI.
And the team
And
doesn't
so,
have to be employed by you either. The team,
at all.
right? The team, when we say team, we're not talking about, hey, these are my employees. We're talking about all of the third party people that it takes for you to deliver what you're delivering.
And if you're working in this online marketplace, you're going to need a developer, you're going to need marketing, you're going to need creatives, you're going to need designers, and all of them come with a cost.
Yeah.
Every single one. And so while a lot of us in the founder journey, like, for months, John, I mean, I still do it. I'm still in this state of bringing my product to market. We're launching here in 5 days, April 1st. So
Congrats.
for months, pay product or payroll, shit, product or payroll,
Right.
right? And I had to make the decision, product. The only way I could ever make payroll to bring somebody on my team is to have a product that's generating revenue.
Amen.
So the team, in the online marketplace, there is so much, there's noise and there's service. And as you're a founder, as you're in this creative environment, like, big names don't mean big results.
Right. Absolutely. I've seen that. I've seen that myself. Yeah.
Right. And so if you think by teaming up with somebody that, I was invited into a large development company, and I thought I'd struck gold.
Right.
And when the first delivery day with a product that I couldn't even put online to high ticket coaches, I was kind of shocked, and I was like, okay, what's it going to take to get a product that, the people I'm trying to be of service to will see value in? They're like 4 months. And, for the founders out there, like, you base your initial product launch from the initial delivery.
Well, not only that, but you have then gone out there and told everybody that you're raising money from, hey, I'm going to perform on this because I'm being told this. And then guess what? If you don't hit that date, they don't care that it wasn't your fault. It's all your fault, right? And that's a reality.
And so, I won't lament the past because
Yeah,
we
I just
all
thought
have
we'd
our
hit on it for a minute because I thought it was important for everybody to understand. Picking your partners in your team is very crucial.
very important. And so, what my advice is, what from my learned experiences, and that's all I can ever share about, is boutique, small teams committed to your vision. They are able to put their hands on it. They're able to give you a price point. You're able to communicate with them. It doesn't matter if they're overseas. What matters is that they're available and that they see your vision. And if they see your vision and you're able to pay them on time every time, because that's still part of the parameters of having a product delivered from your team,
Yeah.
is that they can see and feel your vision, that team becomes unbreakable.
Yeah.
And for founders, it's almost more important because of the high that comes with putting an idea on paper. Like what happens is, John, you've been particularly with this idea for years. Like the idea comes into the gray space and it maturizes up there, and then you're able to put words to it. Then you're able to put like a process to it and a system to it and a flow to it, and how it's going to be of service to your marketplace, how it's going to generate income, how it's going to cover your costs, and you create a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so important to spend the time to really know how your business is going to work and how it's going to function before you press go.
Yes.
Because not so much that an investor, your friends or your family need the business plan to make an investment in you. You need to know your path forward.
Mhm.
We so caught up in the high of having the idea that we just think it's going to work because we're entrepreneurs in this day and age where you go online and everybody's making $10 million a month.
Right.
That
Right.
is not reality of the world we live, right?
Yeah.
And the team is so important. And I would advise anybody that's out there chasing the dream
Yeah.
to manicure your team first before you put too much effort into manicuring your product.
Right, right. I'm really interested. So we've talked a lot about your journey as far as getting here today. Tell me about where you're going. Tell me about EQI intelligence. I know a lot about it, but I think our audience would love to hear what you've been working on and what you've got coming down the pike here.
Yeah. So I'll digress just real quickly. I, my main passion in life for 25 years has been real estate development, high-end custom home building, and whitewater rafting and fly fish guiding. And I was able to mature into both of those roles into a peak position. High-end custom home builder in Bend, Oregon, and one of the lead guides and one of the most amazing backcountry outfitters on the Middle Fork of the Salmon. And nobody ever in my past life from 4 years ago, sitting in my boat or any home I built would have ever thought that I'd be having a conversation on a podcast right now, building an AI tech company. Technology. So
The long way of the waters for sure, right?
so our lives are meant to change,
Yeah.
and our lives are, and we're meant to go with the flow of life.
Yeah.
And so, Great Spirit blessed me with the greatest love of my life. And when I made the commitment to that relationship and moved from what I knew and all the dimensions that I had previously lived life in, I moved to Portland, Oregon, and she had just been hired by Tony and Dean at mastermind.com.
Yeah.
Just and literally like days before. And what unfolded and how EQAI came to life is I was in a period of transition. I was actually not guiding anymore and I wasn't building homes anymore. And I was in this great space of reset.
Yeah.
And what I got to hear, John, through, call after call, week after week for several months on end was the same four pain points, whether they were high ticket coaches, struggling to, increase revenue coaches, or people chasing the dream to be a coach. And, the coaching marketplace is rapidly growing.
Yeah.
And yet the pain points are the same. And so
Right.
I sat listening to these calls, not to the conversations of the calls, but to my partner's responses to, questions and how could we get more, how could she get more closings
Mhm.
and more sales, right? How could she change the vernacular? And all of a sudden it started to hit me like, there's an acquisition, onboarding, retention, and what I call scaling problem prevalent as the pain points in this coaching industry and in the online sector as a whole.
Right.
And so, quickly I saw a reel from Gary Vanderchuk. Sitting on the couch, scrolling through Instagram, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I couldn't be my wife to be's sales coach. That was for sure. He said, if you're not investing 2 hours every day of your life into AI right now, you're going to be a typewriter in 2 years.
Right.
Now, that hit me. Okay. Because in high school, I learned how to type on a typewriter. And I'm pushing, at that point in time, I was pushing 50 years old. And so I was like, oh shit, the last thing I need to be is a typewriter in 2 years.
Right.
And so I went to OpenAI for the first time. First time ever, never used it, never touched it. It's Chat GPT 3.0. And I entered my first question, and it was basically like, blah, 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 blah. This is what I do. These are my experiences. How can I create a product in the coaching industry that will completely disrupt everything that it is today? Because today it's courses and, challenges and all the things that are kind of the coaching box in terms of how we're offering services and how can I, in disrupting that product, bring a new service of acquisition, onboarding, retention, and scaling to coaches' value ladders.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, I fell into the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And what commenced there was relationships and a previous coaching on. I had a Cameron Scott coaching for several years in 2018 to like COVID. And so I reached out to those people once that vision got downloaded and I understood how I wanted to start to structure that disruption.
Yeah.
And counter to some of my advice about really getting your business plan dialed in, I fucking dove in. Like I literally was like, I saw
Sometimes you build it as you do it,
that's the other thing. Like sometimes you got to roll the dice. Like sometimes you're willing to being an entrepreneur means sometimes you got to risk everything.
Right.
And I was in a state of, I was unbridled. There was no job. There was no paycheck. There was like, let's build this thing and let's shift it.
Yeah.
And so, for me on my journey, my founder journey isn't the journey that has been a seamless, smooth, easy to raise money product. It's been a constant challenge each and every round to really understand my market and understand my product and make sure that I'm building something that coalesces both, that serves both.
Yeah.
And so EQAI is that. What we've done is we've used my first experience with AI at 3.0 was I felt like I was talking to a developer.
Right.
No empathy. There was no kindness. There was no invitation to like, as coaches in this market space, like our message is always about growth and transformation. Right. And so it immediately like, how can we take AI and train emotional intelligence into it so that it can be an empathetic engine servicing the coach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to grow their business, to manicure and massage the relationship between coach and client when they're not connected.
Right.
And so EQ came to life when that principle structure, like, to literally be the coaches. It's not a clone. I'm kind of against clone technology. I think that stuff's gonna, I think people want to know they're dealing with people, and I think they want to know they're dealing with AI as we move forward.
Yeah.
And so AI is a representation of the coach 24 hours a day, trained to communicate in their brand, in their marketing style, with the love and compassion and service that they bring to their clients. And it's basically rapport building, moving them through an assessment product that makes them feel felt, seen, and heard. And the next best call to action: book a call, buy the program, onboard into the transformational ecosystem. And then we have these metrics behind that will, do email follow-ups. Hey, John, I noticed you missed the meeting. Are you okay? Do you want to connect with the coach? Blah, blah, blah. We'll do emotional like surveying throughout the life course so that through our digital twin technology, the client will see how they've grown and changed and evolved through that coach's journey. And the coach will also see how that client has matured in whatever fashion they're looking for assistance with. And, I couldn't be more excited. I mean, every day right now, spending all day like testing the system, testing the flow. Every assessment's working perfectly. The dashboards are coming alive, and through a transition from one developer at the hardest part of the journey where we had come online,
Yeah.
for months months of failing to deliver a product that worked.
Yeah.
I terminated that relationship and started a new development the next day with a man that I deeply admire, deeply respect, and his team. They're out of Pakistan, amazing human beings. And in less than 90 days, we're bringing to market a product that works every single time and functions exactly how I wanted it to, with the baseline of emotional intelligence to help people feel felt and seen, heard on their journey of transformation. So super
Well,
stoked. We're gonna be Matt here pretty soon. You're gonna be one of the
yeah.
first ones.
Well, I'm excited to get on the platform myself. I've seen some of it and been part of it, and I'm real excited and hoping that we can blend that product with the product that I've kind of put together. Thanks for sharing all that stuff. I think it's really helpful for the entrepreneurs out there that go through the journey and sometimes think they're the only ones going through some of those tough times. But the excitement that I see in you and what's coming online, I can tell you that and I've seen it, it's going to be an amazing, amazing product, and super excited to see how it all works. I was in there the other day kind of playing around with
My
it, and I thought
partner
it was
is
really
one of the
good.
Pelican team. I ticket mastermind events this weekend, and she's been sharing, about EQAI with some of these like really successful, really amazing human beings that so many of us know their names,
Yeah.
and all of them. Oh God, I remember when I had $100 in the bank and credit card bills couldn't be paid, and
Yeah.
we were right there on the breakdown, and then we had the breakout,
Yeah.
and and part of this, like this environment in this capitalistic state that we're in right now globally, it's not an environment of ease. It is not a success that does not come easy.
Yeah.
And so, for coaches who are struggling to build their brand and struggling to get clients, if you believe in you, if you believe in your product, it doesn't matter if your bank account goes zero. It doesn't actually at this point in time matter if you're even fundable.
Right.
What matters is that you don't give up,
Yeah. You
because
got it.
that breakout.
Yeah. And that's the entrepreneurial spirit we all talk about. Those of us don't know when to quit or give up and keep going on the journey. One thing I can speak to, and it's another thing that I know that you've spent some time doing it, but I want to hit on it in this time that we're with everybody here, is that one thing is the numbers, and most people they don't really, they kind of take their numbers, they print them out, and then they send them to the investor or they send them to the bank. And the other big secret is the story behind the numbers. And one of the things, and I know you have, and you and I've talked a little bit about it, is something called a burn rate. And what a burn rate, for those that don't know, is you get a pile of money, and then guess what? You're not making any money, so you're just burning through money. And so the story behind what you're using that money for and how it's burning, and how long you have before it's up, before you have something of value. Can you speak a little bit, and I don't need to know all the details, and it can be very high level, but I think it'd be helpful for everybody to, let's just say you had $250,000, and you go and you're going to develop your product, and you sit down in the beginning and you go, okay, where do I get my biggest value for what I invest in this money in? Maybe you can share a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. I'll start this by saying there is nothing more valuable in an entrepreneurial's journey than a spreadsheet. And a lot of people are like, I hate spreadsheets. I hate spreadsheets. And I had my first and only so far, my first bankruptcy in 2012, post 2008 recession. And in that 2008 world, pre 2008, I was making a tremendous amount of money as a big real estate consultant and project management developer, and I didn't understand how money worked. I had never been taught money. So it came and it went, and then I lost it all. And when I filed bankruptcy, It was one of the hardest one of the hardest entrepreneurial, emotionally things I've experienced in my life so far.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget signing those papers. Like, to get there was such an emotional toll.
Yeah.
And so with $0, with a credit score at 430, I think, or 500 or whatever they start out at ground zero again with it in 2012, I decided to track every single penny for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so, I still have the spreadsheet that started in 2012, how much money I made every week, doing whatever I was doing, and how much money I spent every week.
Yeah.
And that became practice that moved into 2012 through, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
Every month, what I'm able to do is use that spreadsheet through my previous entrepreneurial journeys as a home builder, as a real estate consultant. And I now know what it takes to manage a business. Like, I know how much money, right, it takes. And so when I started this journey, I had a blank spreadsheet. EQA, well, it was a different name, but EQAI. And, I put in like, paying myself. And I was like, oh, you can't pay yourself, take yourself out. And
Yeah.
then paying my developers and paying for the attorneys to do the IP protection. And, all of a sudden you think it's going to be, and you have X amount of dollars, whether it's credit line, et cetera, but tracking your costs from day one are critical.
Yeah.
And that burn rate grows very fast if you don't manage every dollar.
Right.
And so the runway that allows you to stay in operations diminishes almost exponentially as the burn rate increases.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started this, like, my burn rate was 20 grand a month. And I was like, oh shit, okay, I got like 6 months. We're going to launch in 4. I can do this. And then the delivery date didn't happen. And I had to go out and borrow money from friends and family. And the next delivery dates didn't happen. And then when I thought they were going to happen, I went and retired help
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to launch at scale. And then the delivery date still didn't happen. And now I've got payroll and product. So the burn rate for especially people looking for funding, looking for investors to believe in them, like, you got to know that number.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to be open about showing it. And what I can say is whether somebody invests in you or not, because of your spreadsheets or how well you know your numbers, you need to know that you can invest in you, and you need to know that when you get investor monies, you're going to manage it wisely and properly. And that means knowing your numbers, knowing your burn rate, knowing your runway, knowing what costs you can cut. And you better not have your name in there anywhere taking money if you're buying it from other people before you get to the point to where you can generate revenue to pay yourself.
And that's kind of one of the things you got to hit. Yeah, you got to hit on that, right? Like, you're not taking money out of when you're raising money at all. You're putting it in. And another thing is that, when you get a pile of money and you have to think about what to do with it, I know a lot of times people think that they can get to the end with that money, but in my experience, that really never happens. Even when we're borrowing money and we have these grand ideas and we're in business and we're making money and we go to the bank, we want a $250,000 line of credit because we want to improve our property and grow our business, and everything costs more. So, one of the things that maybe you can talk to a little bit is about phasing your product, or how you think about, okay, I have this really grand idea, but how do I scale this back to have a deliverable before the entire deliverable, where you can add like components on. I think the other day we were talking about a technology that's not quite set up yet, but you're like, that's something that we can do in phase 2. So, sometimes entrepreneurs have this big dream of how I want this whole thing to work, but you don't have the resources to get there. So you have to figure out monetarily, like, what provides enough value, with what I have for resources. Have you ever gone through that kind of process with what you're going through now?
Oh yeah, I've gone through it. I've gone through it for months.
Yeah.
Again, for EQAI, the immediate, like, for EQAI, the product all along was creating an AI partner that that speaks with emotional intelligence and the coach's branding, marketing, voice, website, products, offers, all the things
Yeah.
like that. But here's the thing, and I'll touch on this with everybody in the world of AI. Like if your AI can't generate revenue, it's noise. Plain and simple. If it
Right.
can't work for you and do tasks for you and help you generate revenue, it's noise.
Right.
And so as as my AI was coming to life, like once we started to get the emotional connotations and the underlying intelligence of emotional communication being trained in it, then I knew the next thing was we have to be able to derive that to revenue and ROI for the people who are going to invest in it. Cause I refuse to sell noise.
Yeah.
So it was conversational AI assessment, call to action, book a call, buy the program.
And that
And
was able
just
to
yesterday,
create a certain amount of revenue, which created a certain amount of value for that investment, which should,
I can sell that.
right. You can start to generate revenue. So getting to revenue sometimes, whether it's just a little bit of revenue gives a lot of people peace that there is a market out there for it and it's working. They say
And
get
that's
your
why they
first
say,
sale. Yeah, just get it out there, even if it's a little sloppy. It doesn't have to be perfect. We talk about this all the time. You have to test and see if your idea is working. You can't leave it on the shelf and keep developing it and keep developing it into the next phase. You need to get some feedback back on how it's working and how it's doing, and that creates value in that original investment, right?
that's correct. And what you also, what as entrepreneurs, like we've envisioned the product working so many times that when it even starts to work partially well, we're already moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And what we have to do, whether we're experienced entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs, is hold the line.
Mm-hmm.
Prove your product, prove your vision works by allowing people to explore it, experience it, provide feedback, because what you think was the best thing for your marketplace doesn't mean shit if it didn't work for them.
Right.
So we also have to do is get feedback. Feedback, like, did it work? What else could we do for you? How did that? And then that beta round that you initially put that product into market is the actual traction you need for the next round of iterations in that MVP product to actually ship it to market.
Yeah.
Right. And so the goal is take the vision, build the product so you can get people to test it, so you can get feedback, so you can refine it, so you can actually ship it knowing that it's going to work for more than 5. It needs to work for 10, 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000, whatever
Right.
or your absorption is. But along the way, like I just had a conversation with my development team last night. We have a client portal. So we have a coach portal and we have a client portal. And that way, the AI communicates with both of them there. And the client portal wasn't quite what I wanted it to be as we come online in 5 days. And then
Yeah.
I sent a list of things to do yesterday. Well, we're trying to dial in our MVP.
Yeah.
And then, my zone of genius is like 1:30, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm awake at 1:30 and I'm like, I don't need a client facing dashboard right now. I don't need it. What
Right.
I need is to prove AI converses with emotional intelligence, the assessment delivers an ROI for the coach. And we
Right.
have that. And so I told the development team this morning, stand down on the client facing dashboard. We don't need it right now.
Right.
Even in moments right before, as a founder or an entrepreneur trying to build a product, don't be so stuck on what you think the market needs, because the only way you're going to prove your product works is to get the base component of it into the marketplace
Right.
as fast as possible.
Oh, I know. I'm developing something right now too, and I'm kind of going through the same process. I want it all to work day one, but you have to kind of pick what's the most important. And one of the things that's really important that I'm most excited about, one is that in the new product in the Capital Vault, business owners will be able to create all of their documentation in one spot from their personal side, their business side. In today's technology, what we're doing, some proprietary stuff, is we're actually helping them understand how lenders and investors look at those numbers and how they compare to competitors in the marketplace. Because one of the things we don't know a lot of times is we send this information off to a bank. They give us, there's like six main reasons a bank will tell you no, right? And that's all they tell you. They don't tell you what number, where, or if I made a different decision, or how does that compare to my competitor. So I'm real excited about our new platform that's actually going to give some of that feedback back. And I'd love to tie in some of this emotional intelligence into that. I think we talked about that a little bit, where we can actually bring to life that journey for the entrepreneurs, in the numbers and in the story behind the numbers, and help evaluate the areas that, they might need a little help in. We could even match up coaches on there, we talked about, where people and consultants could be some, because we between you and I, we have some great connections in the marketplace that could really help some business owners coach in different areas. And I can tell you, man, when I was doing one of my first businesses, my first business I ever did, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I had a transportation company. I was 23
Yeah.
years old. I had 30 cars. I went out and
Yeah.
bought my first car myself. It was a black Lincoln Town Car. I still have it to this day, parked. And my
Wow.
goal, my
Cool.
goal one day is to chop off the top and put some suicide doors on and make it a convertible. But it's a 1998 black Town Car, and it probably has 350,000 miles on it that I put all on myself during my transportation days. But
Cool.
I can tell you that I had no idea about my competitors, or what my
Mm.
numbers looked at compared to theirs, or what is a good loan comparison on these vehicles compared to what's out there in the marketplace. And so, it's my passion and goal to bring the knowledge to the entrepreneurs that the banks have that they don't share, before they ever go to the bank. Because with today's technology and what we know, having all your documents in one place, being able to evaluate those documents, be able to evaluate your current debt schedule, evaluate, do you have a will, do you have a trust, are you structured right? Very, very important for the entrepreneurial journey, so that they can make the right decisions on their journey. But yeah, so I had a transportation company that I started, and bootstrapped that one. But that was a never sleeping 24/7 job, and so I had to move on from that one.
I won't, I want you to share, all about Capital Vault, but through, our mutual network and amazing entrepreneurial group at Mastermind, I was referred to you on my journey of, seeking investor relationships for referrals. And because, part of the founder journey, whether you're comfortable doing it or not, once you step onto this path and you go out and raise your first dollar, until you either exceed every expectation in the world and sell a product that is so adoptable that you never need to raise money again, you are always going to be dealing with money. You are going to be dealing with the challenges of raising it, the challenges of managing it properly, the challenges of not spending it too fast, the challenges of making sure you can pay your taxes, the challenges of making sure that you save right, that you protect yourself. So, you know, in this day and age, I'll say this about AI. There isn't a single person who, if they have access to it, should ever show up to any place saying they don't know.
Right.
Because what it does allow us to do now is quickly get educated on what we do need to know, at least from the the mental capacity of learning something new. But you know, I'm not gonna down talk the education system or anything, but like we 95% of entrepreneurs don't understand how money works.
Right. They don't.
They
They have.
know they need to make they need to, they have bills they need to pay. They have a vision that they believe they can generate revenue if they bring that vision to life. And then there's all these things that happen that as an entrepreneur that you're not prepared for, that you don't expect.
Yeah.
And if you don't have sound financial guidance and a community or a mentor or something that you can work with, speak to, reach out to as you're on this journey, the suffering increases exponentially because
Yeah.
it is really hard to train ourselves how to manage and work through all the nuances. There, a no is just a no, but when you needed it to be a yes, it's heartbreaking.
Well,
And
the
the
sad
no is horrible.
Yeah, and the sad thing is the no could have been a yes a lot of
Yeah,
times. And I
a
think
lot of times.
that's really the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because you don't know what you don't know, and chat and AI can't tell you these things. They can tell you very specific things, but they can't really help you understand your cost of goods being high compared to your competitors because you have a product that you are not making money on, that you're selling more than your other products that you probably should get rid of. Or you have an employee
Right.
in there
Right.
that is an old employee and isn't bound and tied into the new journey that you've created and is holding you back. Or you
Right.
have created a wall where your identity is tied up in the business and it's time for you to move to the next thing. Or you're making all the answers or doing all the things and you should be hiring somebody else to do that to free yourself up to do something else. There's so many little nuances in the numbers that, from doing this for 30 years now, I can literally look at the numbers and almost pinpoint and say, hey, this area here is a direct reflection of how the entrepreneur is emotionally making decisions. I have this thing called the emotional index for entrepreneurs, and really all it is like, where are you making your decisions from? Are you making it from fear? Are you making this
Mhm.
decision for fear? Are you making this out of pride? Right? Where is this decision coming from? And so, a lot of times, understanding where you are as an entrepreneur emotionally helps you make better decisions in your business. And so, I think that's probably one of the most exciting things about what you're doing is tying in that emotional aspect into the platform, which is great.
Well, and that's one of the things, like, when you and I first had our conversation a few months ago, and, you were sharing with me what you were conceptualizing and this capital vault readiness product. I mean, I was just like, "Oh my god." Like, if EQAI could support or at the foundational level of how your AI communicates with these clients, and, I don't small talk the fears around finances at all.
Right.
Like, I don't care what kind of entrepreneur you are, how much money you've made. If you've made any money or success, you've had to overcome some big fears.
Right.
And if you're on the mutual, if you're trying to raise investor funds, if you're trying to build a product, I promise you, you will have sleepless nights. I promise you, finances will be a major fear point.
Yeah.
And what if, and this has always been my question with the emotional intelligence underlying EQAI, what if, like, we can build a product that actually speaks in empathy and kindness and understanding to the people who are in a place of fear, and you're in a meeting or you're on vacation, and yet your branded voice, your style, that AI partner can respond and can ground that person that's on that transformational financial journey in your portfolio
Yeah.
for the moment.
Yeah.
Right? And remind them it's gonna be okay. You've overcome
Well,
this before. Let's all scheduled.
it's an interesting thing, right? And so I think about this all the time because you have all of these people out there that say AI, it's just a robot, it's just a thing. But what you're saying is this: the difference between going to dad for an answer and going to mom for an answer, right? Mom might make you feel emotionally powerful. Dad might tear you down and make you grind your teeth and go get it done. At least that was my family. Like, my dad was like, "Suck
Yeah,
it up. It's good that you're getting yelled at." My mom was
yeah.
like, "Oh, it's okay. Everything's going to be great." And there's two different results from that, right? And so, as what's really interesting, because I use AI all day long, and I've used it for almost 3 years now. And the way my mind talks to me is based on how it kind of learned. Now, I know you've put a lot of stuff in to yours to enhance that, and that's what's really your secret sauce. But even dealing now in today's world with how it responds to me, it knows kind of how I need to hear it for me to move to the next thing. And so I look at this as, my kids, which are younger, I've got a 6-year old, a 16-year old, and a 19-year old, you know, they're using AI every day in school, out of school. Like, it's part of who they are and their culture. I just got out of college and they just started emails. So I've been in the technology boom this entire time watching it all happen. And so, I look at AI as a tool, right? And if we can have the right tools around us to encourage us and help us and give us information, who cares if I can get on the phone with Jon, or John's put all his knowledge into something that's helping feed it to me so I can make a decision right now, feel good right now, and move on. And I think that's something that everybody just has to, it's like I tell everybody, building a house. You can take a big old hammer and go frame a house, or you can take a nail gun that's hooked to a hose, or you could take a nail gun that's on a battery, and each one of them is going to give you a completely different result, right? And so it's like, what tool do you want to use in your life, and how do you want to use it? And I think it's just getting comfortable with that, that era.
Great point. And what I'll just say about that is that, and you brought it up, like those of us those of us, the 70s, 80s babies, 60s, 70s, 80s babies, like, we went from typewriter to net 3.0, and we've been on this ride of technology, but we're at this critical juncture right now that is truly like this new intersection of humanity and technology.
Yeah.
And again, the media has done no favors for representing this intersection with a spirit of growth, a spirit of humanity, another layer of humanity's transformation. I mean, fire was one, power was one.
The wheel.
So I look at, like, the minute I interacted with it for my first time, outside of, like, Chase AI bot when I had a banking issue, or Delta Airlines when I had a flight issue, and I was like, operator, fast.
Yeah, it's like, I need to talk to somebody. Give me a representative, please.
And to your point, like, now AI is capable of representing us. And so part of my commitment to this technology, and again, everybody, please understand, I've been floating rivers and throwing flies and using the hammer most of my life. So to be in this world of the upper reaches of what technology has the ability to do for humanity is at times a very fearful thing.
Yeah.
Like, my initial reaction to it was, what an amazing tool.
Right.
What an amazing tool if we could harness it in such a way that we can train it to reflect our highest self, our best self, our most spiritually grounded, entrepreneurial, service-oriented self 24/7. And if we can do that, we can use this tool to empower human connection at a level that is unseen in the online service industry up until this point in time.
Yeah.
And so, there are new technologies that are coming online with this advent of AI, digital twin, cloning, robotics, all of these things. None of that matters if you're afraid to use it.
Right.
None of that matters if you think it's a tool that's not going to be in service to you or your greatest good. And so, my advice to anybody using this technology is get familiar with it, because it's not going away.
Yeah.
Get comfortable with it, because it can be your ally in so many ways. I mean, for me on my journey, when I first started it, having not used much of it before, there was nights where I could barely go to bed, because as a spiritually aligned, deep into my practices, like, I learned things that no amount of reading could have ever taught me in terms of how these modalities and how my entrepreneurial journey have helped shape the me that I am today.
Right.
And so, I believe that through, like, what you're bringing online and what EQAI is, like, this is that marriage, that perfect symbiosis of one of those places in the entrepreneurial journey where empathy and loving kindness can be in service to our biggest fears. And sometimes that's being managing finances, managing
Oh,
our business.
well, I can
I think it,
remember, yeah, I can remember as a kid, I've told this story a few times, but my parents were entrepreneurs. My mom was in the food and beverage business. My dad was in the construction business, but most of the time I was in the food and beverage business till I got old enough and strong enough. Then he put me out in the yard doing stuff in construction. But, you know, I remember the talks at the table, and they just had no clue. They had no clue in business. They wanted to add some tables and some chairs and some equipment. They wanted to do some marketing, and they just really didn't know what to do or where to go or who to talk to or what their numbers even meant. And so I made it a journey as a young man when I first started banking, and I would go in every day and I would study the underwriting guidelines of one of the largest banks in America, actually Bank of America, and understood, they have hundreds and hundreds of years of data that they don't share with anybody, but they use it on deciding whether or not they're going to give money to people. And so I would go in and I would study that. I'm like, why is this information not readily available to them? And so every bank, they do this thing where, let's just use the SBA, for example, right? The SBA says, I'll give small businesses loans and I'll guarantee 50% of it if you as a bank give them a loan. And they give certain guidelines. Well, every bank goes in and they add additional restrictions on top of what the SBA said that they would take, and they call those overlays. And so that's why you get one no from a bank and a yes from another. And that's why it's super important to understand what you look like before you talk to a bank, because you can go talk to a bank and say, well, tell me about how you look at this and how you look at that. And well, then I'm not going to waste my time to go over and talk to you until you find the right partner. Finding the right partner in finance is one of the biggest things, because you're already fearful anyway to give your information out, right? Everybody's told you, don't tell anybody what you make, don't share your information. The bank says, give it all to me, tell me everything about yourself, give me some blood, and then I'll give you some money, right? And so it's like this conflict you have inside, like hold it all or give it all out. What I want to do and what I'm trying to do is help business owners underwrite and understand themselves before they ever go look for capital. Understand how those numbers work. And so I think having the emotional intelligence behind it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to work really well. I really do.
I'm, I'm really, again, it's like from my heart to the EQAI, to the people who have been a part of this journey with me. Like, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done, and yet, like, it also is as challenging as all the things have been. Like, to see AI like communicate in true warmth and kindness, and the invitation for transformation, whether it's your finances, your life, your relationship, your business, whatever it is that this coaching, my deepest respect is to coaches, to people who get up every day and step past those fears of putting themselves on social media, of trying to create another offer in their product to be of service to their community. Like, you know, uh, like, to me, like, coaches are just like people on a yoga, like a room full of yogis on the yoga mat. They all came there carrying something that they're trying to let go of, and they're trying to rise into something that they're trying to be.
Yeah.
Right. And God gives us just this next leverage in the ability to create relationship with love and kindness and intelligence and transformation.
Yeah.
And
If
I just perfect.
yeah. Oh, I do. And hey, if you're still listening here today and you're interested, you're a coach out there and you're interested in getting some more information on EQAI, drop EQAI in the comments, and Cameron or I will get you hooked up and lined up with that. If you're interested in understanding Capital Vault and how to organize your documents, understand your documents, I want to bring you into the founder community. So drop the word founder in here and I'll get you in the community. I've got something super, super, super special going on. I'm getting ready to launch this product. It's probably worth I don't know, $20,000. And for the founders that come in, I'm going to give it to you free. and you'll be locked in for life to come in for free. I'm not going to charge a dime. So if you're interested in being a founder and part of our community and getting in there and getting your financials uploaded and understanding where you are in the process, the really cool thing about this platform is that you'll be lender ready, and you'll go from denied to approved before you know it, because you're going to know what the banks know before you go to them. You're going to know what the investors know before you go to them. And that's probably one of the most important and powerful things you can do as an entrepreneur, is have the knowledge of why you've been declined, because it's probably not because your business sucks. And I'm sure it's not because you're not a great visionary and you don't have exactly what it takes to make a great business. It's just that you're not prepared quite right, or there's just a little something off that you don't quite understand. Because if you have the knowledge, you can make the decisions that will make a huge impact in the growth of your business. So, hey, Cameron, I want to thank you so much for being here today. It was super fun. We're going to have to do this again. And
Yep.
anything you want to leave the patrons with that are listening?
Uh, Same thing as you. Like, we're starting a founder cohort in the month of April, and our reservation list is growing. So if you're interested, drop in the link EQAI, and we'll get you the information, and let's get you on the reservation list. Like, the founder cohort group for both John and I, it's a limited number, and then everything becomes real. So let's help you emotionally, intelligently, financially, wickedly smart, grow your business, get the education you need, and empower human connection.
All right. All right, audience, guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, if you want to know more, check out the Heartbeat of Money. We've got all kinds of great stuff in there. We'll see you next week.